Get ready to be inspired by the great things happening in rural education. The Rural Scoop will bring you new ideas and innovative solutions. We'll dive into education issues and we'll highlight what's working in your rural communities. You'll hear from a variety of educators, administrators, professionals, and others who will provide relevant and engaging content in each episode. And now, for a special episode recorded at the Arizona Rural Schools Association Conference, here's your host, Ty White.
So the first question I'm going to ask to help break the ice and show you there's no trick questions, would you introduce yourself to our audience and sort of explain why you're here at the conference?
Sure. My name is Ildi Laczko-Kerr. I'm the founder and CEO of Ribbit Learning. This is the second ARSA conference that I've been to, and we're here because we support rural schools and rural teachers.
Is there anything you were looking forward to at this conference this year, or is there something you've seen today that's really stood out?
I always look forward to just relationships and reconnecting with longtime friends. I won't say old friends. Some of us have been around for a while, and meeting new people. So I think the benefit of coming to any conference, whether it's a state or like national conference, is just building relationships and expanding networks.
That sounds like a good reason to be in the work that you do anyways, and mentoring.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell people about Ribbit and what it is you have to offer rural schools?
So I started Ribbit to be able to deliver and scale instructional coaching, in particular to teachers and educators in small and rural communities. So I've done professional development and consulting for a long time, and I drove all over the state of Arizona. And the idea for Ribbit actually came on a drive back from Kingman, Arizona, after I'd been coaching new teachers all day. And I thought there's got to be a more effective and efficient way of doing this that was less expensive for rural communities. And so we looked to create technology to be able to get coaching to more teachers. But we literally started it with a rural community in mind.
Can you tell me about your rural experiences?
So I have never grown up in rural Arizona, but I am more or less an Arizona native. I moved to the U.S., but directly to Arizona when I was 4 years old. So my experiences are really supporting teachers and leaders in rural communities. So I've driven and supported teachers on the border in Douglas, all the way up to Lake Havasu, stayed in Laughlin and driven across the bridge to teach and coach in Bullhead City, to Kingman, and kind of everywhere in between. So my real passion is supporting teachers in rural communities. And so that's really where my experience is.
What does the expression the rural advantage mean to you?
The rural advantage, gosh, I think it means to me just grit and resilience. Communities who are willing to build bridges, to learn with each other, but really to build up their community and take care of the people who live there. So I really feel like, coming from a big metro area where you don't have that same rural advantage, I think the ability to know your community well, to interact at that kind of deep personal level, I think is amazing. And I think to me, rural means grit. It means persistence, and it means kind of accomplishing things, but doing it collaboratively together.
I'm sure we're going to appreciate that answer with the theme this year being resilient rural.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite parts of this conference is that ARSA recognizes and celebrates 10 outstanding teachers from across the state. And, one of them is going to be selected as the Teacher of the Year, but they're all worthy of that title. And I wanted to kind of put that back and reflect ourselves. Would you share with us about a teacher who impacted you and maybe influenced you at some point?
I love that. I've had so many educators from elementary school all the way through my PhD. So it'll be a little hard. But I will tell you a story about Miss Harrison. She was my middle school English teacher, and she really, middle school is a weird time to be a kid. And it's where you're building, your first loves and relationships. And, she was an educator who just really got kids. And I always felt so safe going into Ms. Harrison's classroom. She was a teacher that I invited to my high school graduation party and had stayed connected with her over the 4 years of being in high school after I'd left middle school. And to me, great teachers like Ms. Harrison connect with kids on that personal level. Obviously, I learned a lot, Romeo and Juliet and everything else in her classroom. But, she made a really profound impact on me because she showed me kind of the passion, but the power of connection.
That's a good one. Romeo and Juliet in middle school. That's some heavy literature.
Yes, it was a lot. I'm not sure I would recommend Romeo and Juliet.
I guess it's fitting, though. I mean, that's kind of their own age.
Yeah.
You got a big network. You got a lot of people that you know across the state. And I'm going to imagine there's some of those that probably ought to be here today. What would you share with them about this conference that might help them decide to commit their time or their resources and join us next year?
I would say that ARSA is really growing and focusing, which is great. I think the content that's being delivered in terms of the sessions is really high quality. I think the ability to network and build that community is really important. So for leaders who are trying to figure out where they spend their time and energy and resources, it's an amazing conference. It's also small enough that you don't feel overwhelmed and like you're just another person attending a big, huge conference. So you have the ability as a participant to really engage with the people who are presenting in a way that at some of those larger conferences, either there's not enough space or time for, or you may not feel comfortable doing that. So ARSA, while it's a growing conference, is still one that where you can build community and relationship.
All right. And that's it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to The Rural Scoop. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, or even leave us a comment. And be sure to follow on Twitter at Dr. Sadorf. That's Dr_SADORF, so that you never miss a new release. You can also check out previous episodes of The Scoop wherever you get your podcasts. Production support for The Rural Scoop is provided by Chattanooga Podcast Studios. Find out more at ChattanoogaPodcastStudios.com. See you next time for more great discussions about rural education.